Hello and welcome. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Hammerhead. So the Hammerhead is the next ship in my Battlecruiser series, and it has been inspired by the Hammerhead Cruiser from Star Wars. Now, as this is Starfield unmodded, I did have to make a few concessions as to the actual size of the eventual ship, but I do feel that this does a fairly good job of doing the Star Wars Hammerhead Cruiser justice. Now, as a battle cruiser, this is a Class C ship, and my only real requirements is that I had to be able to support a lot of crew, both from crew capacity and sleeping quarters, have an armory and an infirmary, and then at least 1,000 cargo. This meets all those requirements quite easily. Um, and overall is just able to do work. Now, when I was building this ship, I was, of course, using the Hammerhead Cruiser from Star Wars as my reference, but I was also looking to go ahead and just experiment with what I could do with a kind of taller ship. So let me come do a little walk around. And you can see here that I have the one landing gear up front and then a very small footprint in the back. And none of these landing gears are clipped into each other. So there's no, as long as I don't fall off the side of my landing platform. So I did not double up on any of this landing gear. Now I am of course using the ship flip glitch, but just you could build a similar ship to this without needing the ship flip glitch, though you would have to make some concessions. Uh, Beyond that, I had originally started this ship with my usual set of weapons that seem appropriate for Class C ship that anybody could use, but I eventually decided to use the Vanguard weaponry because of all of my ships. There are three that I actually decided that I liked enough to go ahead and use for my day-to-day play. One of those was my Razor Leaf, and the second was this cruiser. It's just a fun ship to bring down and land with you. The third ship will be coming up soon. So let's go ahead and start with the tour, and then I will go ahead and show you how it's built, and of course how it performs. So as usual, we are coming into the armory, come to the back of it, and we can hop on up into the infirmary. We do have a nice little window back here. Now, do note here, I am using these Supernova engines, and I'm using them for aesthetics' sake. You can get better engines. Alright, at the front of the infirmary, I have a companionway. Now, here, right above this, I have a 3x3 cargo hold. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is originally I wanted to have this companionway at the back right here, and then have the infirmary in front. However, what it decided to do is it decided to pop up here, go up into the cargo hold straight up from here, and then you'd have to come down through this ladder from the cargo hold to get into the infirmary, which is not what I wanted. So with the Play Stores Yourself mod, I would swap this whole tab and that one, and just put the ladder at the back. Now, speaking of that, we are coming into this 3x3 cargo hold. On this case, I decided to use Hope Tech, though you can use any 3x3 that you would want. The other one that I would highly consider here would be the Nova Galactic one, primarily because it does come with a bathroom in that far back corner. Alright, moving forward, we enter into the Dymos 3x1 Engineering Bay B. This is the more electronically focused engineering bay. And then coming forward from this, we end up in the Stroud control room. For this control room, I do want a more blocky control room, so it's going to be either the Stroud, Dymos, or potentially the Taio Mid. But I kind of like Stroud. Coming up this ladder here, we enter into the Kontiki Bridge. So a couple of the concessions that I had to make, I experimented some with the Kontiki Bridge and the Ares Bridge. Both can work, though the Ares Bridge does merge into the upper pieces up there. However, when you're using the Kontiki Bridge, you have to have this bottom entryway here, and I did kind of prefer the Ares Bridge rear entryway. Something to consider if you like this Kontiki Bridge is there is a mod I am aware of for PC, but as far as I'm aware, it's not available on Xbox at the moment, that puts a rear door on the Kontiki Bridge. And then if you did that, I would swap around some of these, make this kind of more living quarters, and then have this layer here be kind of the what's called working quarters. So coming forward here, very first thing, when we hop up, we are in a 1x1 companionway. And then coming forward, we have a 3x1 all-in-one. And then up here, we have a Stroud 2x1 all-in-one. That's a 4 beds at the moment. We'll get back to that ladder in just a sec. Coming back here, we enter into the Nova Galactic 3x2, 2x3 mess hall. Again, I have mentioned that this is one of my favorite habs. On this back corner here, this is where our docker is located, because we can't have a top or bottom mounted one easily. So we have a side mounted one right here. Moving forward, off on this side, we have another 2x1 all-in-one. You could also consider making this, say, a captain's quarters if you wanted. Then we can hop up here and we enter into another 3x1 all-in-one. Again, here, if I was using the Place Doors Myself mod, I would have a door right here leading into the 2x1 rather than needing to walk through this 3x1 below and then go up the ladder. Coming back here, I have yet another 2x1 all-in-one, and all of these living quarters are Stroud at the moment. So I believe I'm at, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 beds so far, which should be more than enough for a sizable crew. And then this last ladder up brings us to the Taio Captain's Quarters and, of course, the 21st bed. So, very large crew capacity and a great deal of support for the crew sizes. So let's go ahead and work our way back down the ladders. Whee, so many ladders. And now let's take a look at how this ship is built. Now, as always, the very first thing I'm going to do is get my colors in my palette. You can see I have a white, primary, red secondary, and then white tertiary. And again, that was just trying to copy that Old Republic scheme. And as mentioned, you could very easily swap these engines out for something else using the, oh, what is it called? SAL engines in place of the Supernovas is actually going to give you better maneuverability. However, um, I ended up running into issues with having enough or having too much mass for my landing gear, and yeah, just went downhill for there. Anyways, let's delete this ship and see how it's built. Alright, so starting with the landing bays. So I wanted to have the smallest kind of base profile, so I went with the NG6 landing bay. On top of this, I'm going to go ahead and put the Deimos armory, posed so that way the front of the armory is connecting to the landing bay entrance. Then, directly on top of the armory, I'm going to go ahead and grab a Deimos infirmary, and then a Deimos companionway. Again, if you're using the Play Stores Yourself mod, I would swap these two. Next up are 3x3, and again here I ended up using, where was it? The Hope 3x3 cargo hull. Next up, off the front of this, I'm going to come back up to Deimos to grab their 3x1 Engineering Bay B. And then I'm going to hop on down here to Stroud, and I'm going to grab the Stroud Control Station. Alright, next on the above the engineering bay, right where it connects to the cargo hull, I'm going to go ahead and place a Stroud companionway. In front of that, we're going to place a Stroud 3x1 all-in-one. On top of it, we're going to place a Stroud 3x1 all-in-one. And in front of that, we're going to place a Stroud 2x1 all-in-one. Note that if you decide to use the Ares bridge instead of the Kontiki, I would replace this with a 2x1 and just pull this back. So you've got two 2x1s instead of a 2x1 and a 3x1. Alright. Next, we're going to come back over here, and we're going to pop up to the Nova, and we're going to grab the Mess Hall 3x2. And then we're going to grab another Stroud 2x1. And then back here, we are going to go ahead and grab another Stroud 2x1. And then finally, we are going to wrap it all up with a Tayo 2x1 Captain's Quarters. And I went with the B to get the side connection pieces here. Alright. Next, right back here on the back of the mess hall, I'm going to go ahead and select my Connect Pro Docker. And then right up here, I'm going to go ahead and select that Kontiki bridge. Alright, and then just to show you what I went with if I use the Ares bridge, placing the Ares bridge here sticks out a bit more. And because of how far it sticks out, it looks like I also needed to go ahead and change this to a 2x1. Sorry. Alright. So this looks like what I needed to do. Can pull this back. So the space for a 2x1 underneath. And then if I line this up, you can see now with its here, it sticks out about the same amount as the Kontiki bridge. And then I went ahead and I made this section here basically be hab space, and then this here is where my control room was. Um, so this is an option if you want to do it. However, you are going to need to be clipping in stuff like the Stroud mid-caps across here, rather than having the hab space available to you there. Alright, so going back to my build, the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and grab some structural pieces. Trying to remember the easiest way to build this ship. Alright, so coming on down here, I want to grab some Stroud mid-bracers. Okay. Now that I have these in place, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the back of the ship first. So, first things first, on the back of the mess hall and the middle of the cargo, kind of the center line here, is where I'm placing my reactor. And here I just use the pinch 8Z because it provides 40 power. I'm going to drop this down one level. Alright, next, let's go ahead and grab our engines. So here is where I am going ahead and grabbing those Supernova engines. Again, I'm using the Supernova because I feel that better matches with the aesthetic of the Hammerhead Cruiser from Star Wars. But using the SAL engines is a very solid option. So you could do something like this. And you can see we are still 40 meters, so we are perfectly fine using those. But as I said, I'm using the Supernovas. Now, if you have played with the Supernovas or have seen some of my videos before, you know that these stick up ever so slightly, and you can kind of see it right here, above the hab line. This means that in order to go ahead and get this placed right here, I actually need to go up one and then duplication glitch this down. Just like that. However, down here, I'm a little bit more open because I'm putting a small gap in right here. Alright, now that the engines are placed, I'm going to come over here to this bottom mid-bracer and I'm going to delete it. And then in its place, I'm going to go ahead and place my grav drive. So for this ship, I was able to get away with an RD3000 beta grav drive. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and get rid of this top mid bracer as well, and just put a Class C grav drive in here. I just wanted to hide the grav drive a little bit more. Alright, next, to finish up the back here, I'm going to come right over here and slap my porthole on. Alright. Next up, let's come on over here and let's start finishing up kind of this little back bottom section here. So the very first thing I'm going to do is right here behind the landing bay and under the armory, I am going to grab myself the NG-20 landing gear. And for this ship, I was debating between using the mid variation or the wide, but I ended up choosing the mid, and then I also went in here, and I grabbed a Nova cowling. And I can just flip that into place over that, and that kind of smooths the line from this landing bay back into the engine. Alright, next up, along this line here, I'm going to come back on over to the landing gear, and we're going to grab a pair of NG-15s. And we will put 2 of those on each side of this ship. Alright, next, right here, I'm going to come back on over to the structural tab, scroll all the way on down to Tio, and I'm going to grab some Tio forward sensors. And they're just being placed right here. Alrighty. Next up, I'm going to come on over to my cargo, and this ship uses 2 40T hauler cargoes. You can see one is placed right here, and this is above the front landing gear. And then the second is placed on the other side, just like so. Alright, now let's come back on over to the structural tab, and we're going to scroll on down until we can get to the shroud caps. And I'm putting 4 shroud caps on in front and behind each of these hauler cargo holds. Now again, this has to be flipped into place because this engine juts down just below. So there's a tiny amount of clipping going on right there. And then repeat on the other side. There we go. Alright. Now in between, along this bottom section here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place a Dynos belly. Then I'm going to come and grab a Stroud cowling and flip that into place. Alright, now we're going to move forward to right here, and we're going to build kind of the chin piece. This is going to start with 2 Hope Tech risers coming down, and then we are going to come on over and grab our last landing gear, which is that NG20 mid variation. Placed just like so. Alright, now we are going to go ahead and grab a Deimos belly and put it behind the riser. Copy that, then bring it on over and flip it into place. Then we're going to go ahead and copy this Nova cowling and flip that into place. So now we've got a little bit of a kind of bump going on there. Coming on over here, we are going to come back on over to the structural tab. I'm going to grab a Hope Tech nose B. And then here we are going to go ahead above and below the bridge, add a horizon weapon mount. And then right here, we'll go ahead and grab another nose B. Alrighty. So that's kind of the bottom of this ship done. Now let's go ahead and look at the sides. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to start by coming on down here to the Tio end caps. I'm going to place a pair of Tio end caps here. Note that these stick out to the sides just a little bit, and that is the perfect amount for Tio side caps. And I'm going to place these side caps down the length of this 3 long hab section, but I'm not going to put it on the engines. Next, coming forward, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Nova cowling. And this is an optional step. If you look here, there's an ever so slight gap that you can see here. That annoyed me just a little bit, so what I ended up doing is grabbing these cowling mids and then I flip them into place, just like so, to make it look like these cowlings go a little bit further. Alright, now that that's all in place, let's go ahead and copy that, including those. And then we are going to repeat all of that on this side of the ship. Need one extra here because this one is covered, whereas this side has the docker. There we go. That is the sides more or less finished. Alright, now kind of working on this upper section here. I'm going to start by grabbing a Stroud cowling, and then I'm going to grab a Stroud cap A. Just like so. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull off the cowling and cap A, and I'm going to come on over to the fuel. And for this ship, I am using a total of 8 of these M30 Ulysses HE3 tanks. It's going to be 4 on each side, and they are going to be capped on the ends with the Nova cowlings. And then I'm going to flip the cowling and the cap A back in place. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to copy that on over to the other side. There. Get that to go into the correct spot. And then I'll delete those. Alrighty then. So the next thing to do now is to build this upper section. So here I'm going to go ahead and start with the Tayo side caps. And then right here I'm going to grab Tayo forward sensors. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab a Nova cowling. And I'm actually going to pull that Nova cowling off for a moment. And then let me go ahead and grab a Deimos cowling and a Deimos cowling, and I will move them into the correct position shortly. But first, I'm going to come on over here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a Hope Tech riser. I'm going to grab a second riser, and then I'm going to grab the Deimos Spine E flipped into the aft variation. And that's what finishes kind of that hammerhead top look. Next, I'm going to take this Deimos cowling directly behind it and flip it to the aft variation. And then the other Deimos cowling I'm going to grab, and I'm going to flip that into position over this Hope Tech riser. Next, I will go ahead and grab one of these Deimos cowlings and flip it into position to kind of smooth these lines out. And then grab the other one to smooth these lines out. There we go. Now, let's just go ahead and quickly look through the structural tab and see if I forgot anything. Nope. All right. So, then let's grab shields. So I've got an Assurance SG-1800 shield. If you wanted to, you could hide this in, well, you've got quite the selection of places to choose from on this ship. But I chose to put it on top of this forward sensors that was up here. Then, all that leaves here is weapons. So, first things first, I'm going to come on up here, scroll all the way on down, and I'm going to grab a PBO 300 Auto Alpha Turret. Nope. Then I'm going to copy it on over to this side, and then copy it down, and here we have to flip it into place because it just doesn't quite fit due to the cargo hold right behind this Cap A. I'm going to copy this off to the side and then flip it into place here. There we go. Now, from here, you could go ahead and say, I am happy with not having Vanguard stuff and use whatever your favorite weapons are. But because I ended up enjoying running this ship, I ended up outfitting it with my Vanguard weaponry. So for that, I have... Where did it go? The Vanguard Hellfire autocannons. Got 6 of these on this ship. There's 4 underneath these Nova Cowlings. And then 2 more on the base of this weapon mount. And then, since I'm using Vanguard anyways, the Vanguard Obliterator auto projectors are just straight up good. So I place 2 there. I place 2 there. And then I've got 2 more that can go literally wherever I want to place on the ship. I believe that in the tour I had them right here. So they are on the outside of this ship. But if you don't want to change these side caps to the B to have the weapon mount, you could also very easily go ahead and attach them to the landing bay down here. Trying to put them on this weapon mount can work, but it can also get a little fiddly too. Alrighty, and that is the ship. So let's go ahead and paint it. Again, the white, red, and white. Again, for that Old Republic theme going. And all we have to do now is assign our weapons. There you have it. The Hammerhead Cruiser. Now, before we continue on, the last thing that I wanted to point out was if I delete these engines, again, remember I had 79 mobility, I can go ahead, scroll all the way on down, and grab these 6330s. And just that change alone is enough to bump me up to 81 mobility. I could also go ahead and do a little bit of rejiggering to say move my reactor into this pillar right here, pull my grav drive out, and then add one more of these engines. However, that then also added enough mass that I needed another landing gear, which led to a whole ordeal of trying to figure out how to get more landing gear onto this ship. Overall, would not necessarily recommend that, but again, one very simple change that you could do to drastically improve, well, not drastically, but noticeably improve the maneuverability of your ship, and also make a little bit less fiddling that you need to work on. Oh, anyways, now let's go ahead and take a look at how this ship performs. Alright, so let's go ahead, drop power to our engines, and then we can head on out to Serpentis. There we go, one down. Alright. So, to nobody's real surprise, when you can use the top end equipment on a Class C ship, um, it's not too much of a challenge. If we can engage some more opponents. Just two? A dirge and a hem two. Okay. One of the things that I do appreciate about these bigger Class C ships is that if you go ahead and build them with less than 100 mobility, they do tend to feel more like big ships. I do think that the sweet spot for, a big ship is somewhere around like 60 to 80-ish. Too much more, and then it just feels way more maneuverable than the ship looks like it should be able to. Too much less though, and it's not as fun to drive. All right, one down. All right, there we go. All right. Let's see if we can get one more engagement. Now that is the view that I like to see. Woo! The celebratory targeting lock kill spin. Alrighty. So, if you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. And I will see you in the next one.